Hello and welcome to Antinatalism This Week. Fourth speaker at the Antinatalist Advocacy Conference 2025 was announced this week, and it is John Williams, who is the co founder of Antinatalist Advocacy Organization. He would be speaking about a case study of 5 steps of doing good. Last week, we saw two opposing factions within the pro-natalist movement, the social conservatives and the Silicon Valley technology people. But even within the Silicon Valley tech bros, there are opposing views. That was the subject of a new article by Dr. Emil P. Torres, The Perplexing Rise of Antinatalism in Silicon Valley. Torres introduces a new term called as replacement antinatalists as opposed to traditional antinatalists. Replacement antinatalists don't want to have children, similar to traditional antinatalists, but the reasons they don't want to have children are different. Replacement antinatalists envision the future dominated by digital beings driven by artificial intelligence, and so they would want humans in their biological form to go extinct. This is different than the pro extinctionist vision of some of the traditional antinatalists. Take chapter 6 of David Benetta's Better Never to Have Been, for example, where he argues for a phased reduction in population of humans until extinction. But once that happens, he does not envision any other beings to replace humans. But replacement antinatalists would want humans to be replaced by these digital post humans. And therefore, I think Torres calls them as replacement antinatalists. So that's their long term vision. But why are they opposed to having children in the short term? One argument that replacement antinatalists adduce in support of their view is that having biological children can lead one to become attached to the biological world, which can thus distract from or interfere with one's commitment as an AI researcher to fulfilling the mission of realizing a digital eschatology, that is, establishing a world dominated by digital post humans. So we see that there are replacement antinatalists in the Silicon Valley, and at the same time, there are pronatalists like Elon Musk who want to have more biological children. Torres calls attitudes like Elon Musk biological pronatalism. And so the question is, how does one make sense of the simultaneous rise of biological pronatalism and replacement antinatalism among Silicon Valley? Musk has claimed in the past that he believes in the future where only 1% of the intelligence will be biological in nature and rest of the 99% will be digital. So why does he keep on having so many children? Torres provides two possible answers to this. One, Musk believes that IQ is hereditary and he is a genius with very high IQ, and so by having many more children, he is increasing the frequency of high IQ genes in the population. And the more geniuses there are, the faster progress in science and technology will unfold. Second possibility, Torres says, is that Musk doesn't actually want humanity to be replaced by post-human digital beings altogether, but humans in future to be merged with machines. So the biological pronatalists would say that they are actually helping to realize the digital future by having more children, since these children could contribute to the creation of post-humanity and also become one of those post-humans themselves. The replacement antinatalists would contend that in fact the best way to contribute to realizing the digital future is by not getting distracted by raising children who might very well be slaughtered in the future if AGIs take over by force, which some Silicon Valley pro-extinctionists are perfectly fine with. There is one more possibility that I can think of, and which Torres does not mention in this article, and that is that if Elon Musk really believes in population collapse. Now, I don't know if that is really the case. Does he really believe, or is he just talking about it to rally the troops for people to have more children? I don't know. But if he really believes in population collapse, then maybe he wants to avoid the collapse just until the point where post humans take over the world, and therefore he wants more people to have more children for now. Anyway, this concept of replacement antinatalists will further be explored in MLP Torres's forthcoming book as per this tweet. A YouTube channel called Rattlesnake TV, which has more than 875,000 subscribers, is hosting a debate on antinatalism between Rachel Wilson and Amanda Suknick. I don't really know if it's really a formal debate or just a discussion of arguments back and forth. or a shouting match. But by the time this video would have come out, that live stream would have already happened. So we will revisit this again the next week to analyze what really was discussed. Rachel Wilson's Instagram describes her as homeschool mom of five, Christian, author of the book Occult Feminism: The Secret History of Women's Liberation. If you are following this channel, you would most likely know Amanda Suknik anyway, but she is the founder of the Exploring Antinatalism podcast and has co-authored the book Antinatalism: Extinction and the End of Procreative Self-Corruption with Mati Hairi. The emotional side of me is rooting for Amanda, full support to Amanda, but I would want this to be more about arguments than about personas. So let's see what happens. The YouTube channel called Overthink Podcast did an episode with Jennifer Banks, who is the author of the book Natality: Toward a Philosophy of Birth. Although this is not exactly about antinatalism, but the central subject of the podcast and of the book, as the title says, is birth. Jennifer Banks explains that she looked at the pronatalist position and the antinatalist position and wanted to explore alternative perspectives towards looking at birth. And so she found that birth can be liberating and it can also be a means of resistance against totalitarianism. I think the language used here is not clear. The word birth is used ambiguously. Both the liberating experience and the act of resistance against totalitarianism can be a result from the act of giving birth, in other words, having children. So, this is about the concerns of parents who want to have children and not about the resulting child and the consequences that it will have to face. So, I personally was not satisfied with the analysis, but I have not read the book, which is not exactly new either. It was published in 2023. BBC News made a video on pronatalism and on pronatalists like Elon Musk and JD Vance and why they want people to have more babies. It goes through the fear mongering about population collapse and also the contradiction that all these tech entrepreneurs are investing billions and billions in technology which is supposed to replace humans at work, and yet they want more humans so they could consume all these products that their companies are producing. And then there is this contradiction of Silicon Valley tech entrepreneurs versus more social conservatives, and both of them are in the pronatalist camp. The video also mentions that Donald Trump hasn't actually done much for pronatalism in reality, except maybe a declaration about providing more access to IVF compared to the promises that he made, and like the way he wants to be called the fertilization president. There are also demographic changes which it covers, like, for example, fertility rates are dropping in most of the developed world. And in the UK, for example, the gap which has been produced because of the declining fertility rates has been filled by immigration. And there are cultural tensions created by the fact that there are young people from Africa which has higher fertility rates looking for work coming to these countries. So, this was not exactly your antinatalist philosophical video, but a sort of good overview of what's happening in the pronatalism world and the world we really live, which is still mostly a pronatalist world. Law and Order Special Victims Unit is an American crime drama running since 1999. The news is its latest episode, A Vicious Circle, which was released on 9th October, involves at least a couple of antinatalist instances. There is a fertility clinic bombing involved, and at least one character, Autumn Diaz, comes from antinatalist movement, even though Autumn is shown to have got pregnant from an older man who murders her for getting pregnant. Most of the antinatalism comes as a side story of the main investigation and is shown in negative light. If you want to know more about this, there is a 10-minute recap of the episode on a channel called Recap DB, or if you are into watching such shows, you can directly watch the episode, I think on NBC if you are in America. A new study about childbirth and parenthood in popular social media platforms across China, Japan, and South Korea was published recently. It analyzed over 200,000 comments and 600 short videos about reproduction and parenting on social media platforms, Douyin and TikTok in China, South Korea, and Japan. The data was analyzed on the basis of 5 dimensions. 1. The childbearing costs, which include living expenses, housing, education, healthcare, and so on. Two, about the utility of having children. This included satisfying one's own parents, continuing the family lineage, parents' well being by getting a sense of intimacy, emotional rewards of parenthood, children as a means to old age care, and so on. Third dimension is about shifting values. And in the eastern parts of the world, there is a mix of more traditional values where marriage and childbearing is seen in a collective context on societal level. But at the same time, industrialization, urbanization, and economic growth have introduced modern values such as individualism, self realization, and personal autonomy. So, young adults prioritize personal goals, which include education, career, and personal fulfillment over marriage and childbearing. Meanwhile, gender roles at home remain traditional, although women have made significant advances in education and workforce participation. They are expected to be the prime caregivers. The burden of balancing professional aspirations with domestic responsibilities discourages many women from marrying or having children. Fourth was population structure, and this included composition of population across different ages, population pyramids, and their impact on social structure and functioning. Discussions about concerns related to a shrinking population, labor shortage, and elderly care reflect a pronatal sentiment, while support for greater independence in self care or increased public assistance for elderly care indicates a supportive attitude towards low fertility. And finally, fifth dimension was about health, primarily about health implications of childbirth. Concerns about labor pain and complications can lead to remaining childless, bolstering anti reproduction sentiment. In contrast, access to assisted reproductive technologies such as in vitro fertilization enables infertile people to have children. Discussions related to ART should demonstrate a pronatal sentiment. So, the study analyzed data from comments and videos in social media based on these five dimensions and tried to draw some thematic inferences. For example, these three pie charts show distribution of these dimensions in China, Japan, and Korea, respectively. As you can see, over 57% of Chinese comments are about values, while those in Japan and South Korea concentrate on utility of childbirth. Here's another interesting map which shows distribution of antinatalist sentiments within different provinces of China in comparison to South Korea and Japan. Qinghai province, for example, which has sparse population and relatively higher ethnic minority groups with Islam being the predominant religion, has anti-reproduction sentiment at about 45%, the lowest in China. What is puzzling is that it is still higher than the anti-reproduction sentiments in South Korea and Japan, which have way lower fertility rates from way longer than what China has had. This study concludes by noting that comments from China reflect the highest levels of antinatalism and significant concerns about income and childbearing costs. Views in Japan and South Korea are more balanced, and that comments from areas with higher economic development and gender equality also show more neutral or pro natalist sentiments. And those were the stories for this week. Thanks for watching.